Hi there, welcome to another edition of Pitchside. Thank you so much for definitely checking out our content on YouTube. I keep telling you guys that to be a part of Pitchside, simply hit the subscription button, and then you will definitely, be able to get all the exclusive content that comes your way in regards to Ugandan football, in regards to exclusive interviews, and so much more. You definitely have to be simply subscribed for you to get those notifications. So please hit the subscription button and let's grow together as a family. Yet again, another edition where, of course, we get to sit down and talk a few matters or talk talking points in Ugandan football, particularly with a club that is synonymous with winning, a club that has made all the big headlines in regards to dominating Ugandan football, at least in the early 2000s and the 90s, and maybe in the last 4 or 3 years. So Sports Club Villa is definitely our talking point today. But before I get into what we're talking about, it's only fair for me to welcome my guest today, who is no longer a guest on Pitchside, a panelist, lead counsel, Harold Atukwatse. Harold, welcome to another edition of Pitchside.
Thank you, Peter. I'm
Yes.
surprised you're still calling me a guest after all this time.
My bad.
But welcome to Pitchside. Let's dig in.
Did you have 100 million with you here?
I could not disclose that kind of information to you, Peter.
You don't have 100 million with you? I would do anything for it right now because people are throwing around money just to make sure things happen. Anyways, just to set the tone, Sports Club Villa are working around the clock to make sure that they have their elections to usher in new leadership, take the club forward. The 4-year cycle is done, or should I say the 5-year cycle is done, and there's talks. There's been a press conference. There's been a lot of talk regarding who or how the elections will be handled. As a matter of fact, we now know that March 22nd is the voting day. As per 7th of March is when the nomination, the people who are actually going to run for the presidency are expected to return the nomination forms. And then the process will go on from there. Today's discussion is centering around the 4 years of Haji Omar Mandela. You probably have to talk a few things that have happened, but also what is going to happen going forward, and everything that has surrounded, the whole voting, fiasco which is ongoing. Let's be very honest. But Harold, for starters, what's your general overview with Sports Club Villa and the fracas that is surrounding, the elections and the resignations left, right, and center?
I'll start with a positive note.
Yeah.
The most beautiful thing about all of this is that Sports Club Villa is trying to dig themselves out of the hole they've been in for a very long time.
Yes.
And I mentioned on X the other day that it's a positive sign that there is at least some traction towards probably a good direction. That shows you they're tired of being a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
The manner in which certain things have been handled, of course, is wanting. But and I'll say this at this juncture, that they don't behave like a 40-year-old club. Yeah. With every year that passes, you look at them and you're like, smaller clubs like Bright Stars, like Lugazi, Wakiso should be going through things of this nature, not S.C Villa. But then also you must note, Peter, that S.C Villa goes through maybe 10-year or 5-year phases. Every other year, you wonder what kind of Villa is coming up. There's a time of Villa International and Villa Jogo. Then there's a time when we had the ownership under Lusaka Commodities, and they keep, and now we have the VMT, the Villa Members Trust, as the primary owners. So they keep changing posts, and you get the feeling that they've now turned a page, and most of these things are going to be a history.
I know it's going to be hard for us to mention names and single out, individuals here and there, but to just roll it back a bit. I think Engineer Ben Misaga, who was the club president at some time, up until Villa won their first league title in 20 years or something, was the one that had led the club to, their most recent silverware.
Yeah,
And
the Uganda Cup,
the
right?
Uganda Cup, yes. And after that, we know what happened. The club didn't have clear leadership and all of that. And then finally in came Haji Omar Mandela, who has since, in 4 years, tried to make sure that he focuses on a couple of things: youth structures, payments on time, signing in players and all. What do you make of Haji's 4 years or 5 as the Sports Club Villa president?
Haji he's run a good race. He's run a good race. It's been 4 years of stability. Most of the things you've talked about as the negatives from not paying salaries, instability off the pitch, and
A
things of the
home.
sort, a home and things of the sort, have not been the leading things we've had about Villa.
Yeah.
If you juxtapose Villa with Express, then you'll see that Haji has done very well. In Ugandan football, I think the biggest positive for any club is for you to be able to pay your dues as and when they fall due. So if you're paying salaries on time, you've had a venue where you're playing, you have an academy that's running, you have a women's team that's running, you have a semblance of a working secretariat, you have a training ground and things of this, and all of those are paid, then it's a big positive. So when you look down the 4 or 5 years, like you said, you'd say he has done well. And if you compare the Villa he took over to the Villa we have right now, you'd be elated. I'm sure even Villa fans would agree. They've had 2 or 3 title charges and won one of those 3. The other they lost on the final day. They've had continental football. That didn't go very well on and off the pitch, but they represented. So you'd give Haji credit for that last 4 years.
For what he has done. You see, Harold, for the time you've spent in football and for the people that you've spoken with, the one common factor that we all always look forward to is having someone who is running the club and can financially sustain that club.
Yeah.
I think over time, Ben Misaga has expressed his disappointment with how Mandela runs the team, and a couple of other people, but especially him, Ben Misaga. I mean, is it justifiable, really?
Peter, I'll not speak for Ben Misaga.
Yes.
He hasn't given me instructions, so I'll not pretend to speak for him or to know what he's thinking. But I'll say this. Let's paint a timeline of Villa from the time Ben Misaga was there. They competed for the title.
Yes, under Waswa
Bossa. And you remember that star-studded team, the Bernard Mwangas, the Nicolas Kasozis, Ebo Etrude, Joseph Usubuga, and the rest.
Tadeo
Sibawas, the Tadeos, and all those. So he had assembled a good team. Then in came, I think, the FUFA, and I call it FUFA because Engineer Moses Magogo might have been behind it. In came that time.
The FUFA reign.
The FUFA reign, yes. In came that FUFA reign when they tried to reorganize and create the Villa Members Trust and all of that. That ended in court. Then the FUFA reign was kicked out. In came Haji Mandela. Now, the missing factor in all of that was money. Finances.
Yes.
Finances. Now, the FUFA reign, for me, had set a very good blueprint for running a football club like Villa.
The survival of the club.
The survival of the club.
That's true.
Set a very fine print for that. Survival of the club. A member-based club and blah, 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 blah. Haji comes in. Now, the time Haji comes in, he brings in a bit of stability. The Linglong money comes in. Maybe some of Haji's money, I don't know how much, but we've seen things running.
The facility is high.
Yeah, the training ground facility, very good training ground with the privacy and all of that. So that comes in and they look like they're on a good trajectory. They go into the market, they're not spending over and above their budget. They look like they have a direction. The media castigated them at the start, but eventually, when they're in the title run, they're doing well. Now, Haji was working with Misaga. Misaga was I think, vice president in charge of funds.
He was on the
mobilization.
ExCom. He was, yes.
Yeah. He was in with Haji. He later left after the Wankulukuku fiasco, I think, where some fans caused some chaos and Villa had to play their home games in Lira. So he came in after a very tumultuous tenure, tried to steady the ship, tried to work with all forces. Because if the person who is trying to run against him now is someone he worked with on his excom, that shows you that there was at least some goodwill to work with everyone.
Yes.
Down the road, for me, I'd say that, and based on the story of African teams everywhere, go to South Africa, go to Zambia, go to Tanzania, here neighbors who are doing well. Every team has that stalwart. Call them a tycoon, for lack of a better word. Every team has that person who is willing to put that money in, and Haji has been that for S.C Villa. In his absence, maybe they would not have had the success that they have had over the last 4 years.
Yeah, even though Engineer Ben Misaga claims a bit of the success to the club, granted, because he's been in that club for a minute, he's grown through the ranks of that club to, being a club president and all. The issue about the whole process of who should, run against Omar Mandela, maybe is what I also need to highlight here. The club held an AGM, and in that AGM, only paid up members were allowed.
As it should be.
As it should be. And a number of factors were put out there. There was communication from the chairman, board of trustees, Mr. Gerald Sendaula, who, among other things, highlighted that the money that the club received from UNRA, which was 3.2 billion Ugandan shillings, had been put in a deposit account, fixed deposit account, which has multiplied to 4 billion. And he also communicated that the target was for Villa to have a home and also have elections to confirm who is going to be the next president. So there was a unanimous agreement in the AGM that the person or anyone who is interested in running as club president should actually pay a non-refundable fee of 100 million Ugandan shillings. Now, that has since caused a stir with many people, sort of raising eyebrows and questioning why it should be that way. You get the feeling that even though there are a few things that Sports Club Villa have not done so well under Omar Mandela, the majority seem to agree with what he has done and they want him to stay on longer. My question now to you, Harold, is do you think the whole process of the electioneering has been handled well by Sports Club Villa?
You have to factor in the group of people that you're dealing with in deciding how much should be paid. You don't look at the candidates who you hope to stand. Look at the general picture of who are you looking to attract as the club. Now, that figure looks like it was engineered for Haji to keep his seat.
As the Mugaga.
Yes. But, and I'll say this immediately after that, a club of S.C Villa's stature should be able to attract 100 people with that kind of money. Juxtapose this, Peter, with Tanzania that you frequent. If Yanga announced that for you to stand, you need to pay 100 million, they would have maybe 15, 20 people. Right?
Yeah.
So in a different environment, the 100 million looks like a gift to whoever you're inviting. But in the Ugandan football sector, it's massive. But then you ask yourself, what's Villa trying to do? What's the rationale behind saying you have to bring 100 million? Maybe they are looking to scare away unserious people from the position of the club president. But the bottom line for me, Peter, is you need to think about what informs that money and the society that you're dealing with. And when you assess that, like I gave you the example of the VMT, 250 people at 50,000 per year, you're collecting peanuts there.
Compared to what you have to spend.
The
chairman, board of trustees, seems to paint a narrative or a picture that the club is financially okay, at least for now, including saying that currently the club has about 400 million on its account. I mean, it's his word against ours. We really don't have proof about that. But if, let's say, we go with what he has said, they have 4 billion shillings in a fixed deposit account. They have an extra 400 million to spend daily expenses. For a club like Sports Club Villa, what would be the targets now?
You've mentioned 400 million in the bank. in Ugandan football, and for a club at Villa's status,
Yes.
that's not being financially okay.
They are still
Because
not in
let me just paint maybe a small picture. That money probably can take care of a club for maybe 4 months at most, 4 to 6 months.
Yes.
So then what happens next season? So is that financially okay? Or we have some money and they're in a better place? I don't think they've had this money on the account in a very long time. Peter, we were talking about the electioneering earlier on, and we shouldn't leave this topic without talking about the process. Villa fell short, and the current management fell short in coming out early and announcing a calendar
for the elections.
for the elections, for the AGM. Come out and say, look, we will have an elective AGM at such and such a time. It will be here. All those who are expected to stand for president will
Do the
can
following.
express their interest.
Yes.
On top of that, come out and say that this will be the agenda. We'll be electing a new president. We will be making plans to get a home. We'll be making plans to increase the VMT subscription and things of the sort. That's how things are done. You don't just call an AGM without putting out an agenda. Secondly, and lastly, on this whole AGM aspect, put out the financials.
How much money has been
How
spent?
the money has been spent. If you've borrowed it, put it there. If you've earned it, put it there. What has been coming out is the 3 billion from UNRWA, the Linglong sponsorship.
Yeah.
Put all of those there and share the books at the AGM. You were at the AGM. Did you see the books?
No, I didn't see any
So a
books.
few of the things have not been handled well. Put the information out there and create a proper corporate governance, compliance checklist on your side. I stand to be corrected publicly or here.
Yeah.
Maybe the Villa fan base is 100,000 strong. Let's take it at that.
Yes.
You had 250 people in that AGM.
Yes.
And we can now at this point differentiate fan base from members. The members are the ones who have paid.
Yeah.
This VMT was introduced 5 years ago.
Yes.
It's a shame that over the 5 years, only 250 people have registered to be members of S.C Villa.
They are up-to-date members.
Yes, the up-to-date members who
Yes.
actually turned up and were interested in affairs of the club. It's a shame. But maybe, like I'd mentioned earlier, you might blame it on the timelines. It was a short period within which they had to mobilize and put together all of these things. But then when you paint the bigger picture, Peter, with the whole of Ugandan football in perspective, right from the regional league to Vipers, because Vipers is now on top of things. They're the last double champions and things. If you've tested the 4-year stability under Haji, it's going to be hard to convince anyone else that you should have something else. And I have been in and around this club, so I can tell you that there are very many good things that they are doing. When you know that they have a training ground where they're doing this, they have Wembley in the regional league, they have academies, they have kids they're paying school fees for at, I think, Mengo.
Yeah, Mengo says.
All of those things, very good things. When you juxtapose Villa with the other VEC clubs, you can see that Villa looks like they're on a rise and the others are either on a free fall or they have stagnated. You can see what's happening at Express and juxtapose this with what's happening at Villa.
Yeah.
You can see what's happening at KCCA. They've done 6 years without a trophy. Villa has been in and around the championship for the last 3 years, and they've come away with one.
Yeah.
So when you look at all of those things, you do not blame the Villa fan base or the members of the VMT for clamoring for Haji to stay, for praying for Haji to stay. They see what's happening at Express. That's their eternal rival. They see it.
And they don't want to go back there.
They
And
do
they've
not
probably
want to
been
go
there
back
even
there.
worse.
Yeah. So you're telling people that we should substitute Misaga for Haji, and then what? What's going to be different?
I want to get to the technical bit of Sports Club Villa and just how much they've invested, especially with the Serbian, lineage, if I could call it that way. But
People have said Mitchell has a big hand in it.
he does. But Harold, you might have the resources to run the club. You may be doing the right things. but I don't think Haji Omar Mandela has got everything right. I feel like there are a couple of things that probably he should also look at and try and improve the club overall. What are some of those things that you feel Haji Mandela needs to work
Yeah,
on?
Peter, I love S.C Villa for so many reasons. For me, for my generation, the best striker of my time is Andrew Fimbo Mukasa. He's the
Yep.
first striker I saw with my own eyes, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Fast forward from that, Villa has become a tiny Kampala club. It shouldn't be. Villa should be a countrywide brand. Now, and then that's one of the things that they need to work on.
Put the club out there across the
Put the
country.
club out there. Let me state it like this, that wake up and have 5 active branches in Kampala in the different divisions. Active.
Yes.
At least 100 strong in each of these divisions. Take it to Mukono. Have a Villa Mukono branch. Take it to Jinja. Take it to Mbarara, Arua, Gulu. Even if you task each of those to have 100 fans.
Every game.
Yeah. Which fans you now register for? The VMT. The club grows. That 50,000 times 100,000 people.
Yep.
Massive. That's the first thing for me. That they need to go back and mobilize funds. The stage at which Villa is, they do not need to invest
In a stadium.
building a stadium.
Shouldn't be priority.
It should be, if they have a 10-point program, it should be number 10. And this is why. We are blessed that so many venues have come up in the last 1-2 years because of AFCON. You can count maybe 10, 15 stadia, suitable stadiums for a club like Villa. You maybe in the CBD or Kampala and its environs, you can count maybe 7. You have Chitende, you have the KCC Omondi, you have Makerere coming up, you have Chambogo, you have Kadiba. So in such an environment, you don't need to rush and invest. You've seen KCC is looking for 38 billion to complete their stadium. They already spent 20. So you don't need to get 50 billion and invest it in such an infrastructure. For me, the infrastructure you should be concentrating on is governance. Streamline that. Have as many members as you can on board.
Revenue collection.
Brand development. Then Villa needs to now step out of the Uganda Premier League and go continental. You've seen the team that Vipers has been building over the years. Compare that to, never mind that when they meet, it's a 1-1 or a 0-0 or 2-1 or it's narrow. But when you juxtapose it on a continental level, you don't think that the Villa team can compete on the continent the same way the Vipers team competes.
Now, that's where my other question is. At the AGM, Haji Mandela emphasized that the club needs time to build players.
Absolutely.
He doesn't subscribe to signing a player of 40 million or 50 million because he doesn't think that player is going to give the club enough time.
That same value.
So, I mean, how is he going to be able to compete on the continent when he is concentrating on using younger players to play for Villa? And he hopes that in the next 6 seasons or 7, that's when he can have a team to compete on the continent.
Yeah, and let me
put... Is that a very good route?
It's a good route, but I need to add this, that they're doing so many, very many good things. The academy, the caliber of players they're bringing in, and the coaches they're bringing in. But you have to know that the big money for Villa is on the continent. I'm not saying go out and splash money on players that probably won't give you that value for money. But have a 3 to 5 year program. Scout. Go and scavenge for those talents. They are there. Special talents.
At a fair fee.
Yes, at a fair fee. I don't want to pinpoint any player, but the money that you're paying to a Ugandan player, there's a Nigerian player who is maybe twice as talented. Who can take it here. So if you identify your talent pools on the continent and you say, look, we can get Nigerian players in here. Send someone to Nigeria.
And then the bit of bringing in foreign coaches. I think in the last 3 seasons, Villa have been consistent with that.
Yeah.
The Serbian that won them the title,
Yeah.
and now the current one, who is there, Zlechko. There's been a semblance of success with these coaches, and if you watch how Villa play, there's also been a bit of growth with the players and all. Just how impactful has this kind of setup helped the club and the players at Sports Club Villa?
The league has exhausted all the coaches. For almost each of the top 10 coaches in the country, and I'll let people do the rankings, but for each of the top 10 coaches, they have a first term and a second term at each of these clubs. Now, a club at Villa's level doesn't have the time to take a risk on, say, a new coach, someone who's just coming up, straight out of Njero. They cannot take those chances. It might send them a few years back. Now, their route has been to step out and get the foreign coaches. And the truth of the matter is, most of these coaches are ahead of the majority of our local coaches in terms of football knowledge, in terms of tactics, in terms of how they handle players, and the whole professionalism and everything that goes with that. So kudos to that. Kudos to the Villa management for that. The only thing I would point out there is there's very little continuity with most of these coaches, because if he does well at Villa, someone will come and snatch him, a Younger, a Simba, or someone. So there should be very good understudies and coaches who they trust. They can be Ugandans or they can be foreign, but the understudies should be very good. Pick up that knowledge and make sure that when the next coach comes in, that philosophy can be continued, or the successes of the previous coaches can be continued and his mistakes are not repeated. So yeah, the foreign coaches coming in, fantastic.
They've done a very good job.
They've done a very good job.
Yeah, there's also the other factor of the youth setup that Villa has currently. You can't ignore the fact that their scouting has gotten them what they would call the top players. They have young players, about 25 of them, that they're looking after and making sure that when they come from school they train, and that is something they've done over and over. You want to think that at some point that is going to pay off, because not every club in the UPL, especially the top clubs, have actually adopted that system. Something that the Mike Mutewis did when the Alan Okolos popped up. You want to think not too far from now, Villa is going to produce some quality talent that is going to help that club perform.
Yeah, that's true, Peter. And it's the youth is the future of football, either for business where you grow and sell, like we've seen with the Chelseas and the rest, or to take part and be members of your squad. However, I'll add this, that at the level Villa is, it's not enough that they have a Wembley. Wembley is in the regional league. You're going to have talents who you need to have 90 games under their belts by the time you sign them for the Villa senior team. You get me?
Yes.
The other day I saw Bukayo Saka was celebrating 300 matches for Arsenal.
Yeah,
He's
for
only
Arsenal.
24.
Yeah.
So you're going to need that structure. The only thing I should add is that when you have such talents, you need to reach out to big league clubs and make sure they can take up such players and give them the match experience. So that by the time from 16, the young player, Tabu Peter, that you're focusing on, has had some minutes at a smaller
So
club.
distribute them around.
Follow them up and make sure that at least by 20, they can get into the Villa senior team. Because you know that players in this part of Africa, by age 23, they can no longer, or there's a slim chance they'll go to Europe. Compared to when they're younger, the 17th, 18s, 19s, and 20s. So they need to incorporate that little bit, get those players early, fix them in the big league clubs, fix them in the really, really good regional league clubs and make sure that they get that competitive advantage and play their mistakes out of their systems.
Okay, it's obvious that Haji Mandela is going to return as club president.
You're
With
the
way things
returning
are.
officer.
I'm sure about that. I don't think much is going to change. But
People have money in this town.
let's
100
wait and
million
see.
is nothing.
All we need is, because it's 5 candidates
Yeah.
plus Mandela. That's 500 million on the table, non-refundable.
Yeah.
That's going to be quite interesting. But for a club like Sports Club Villa, they could have their differences.
Yeah.
But you also want to think that the people that are trying to make sure they get into the mix and will later on not be able to are still useful to the club. Someone sits here and asks Farouk Meiwa, Engineer Ben Misaga, maybe Dennis Imbide, who's also running for presidency. Surely these people can come together and still work towards helping the club. Instead of staying out as they throw stones and attack. And I don't you think there is need for them to instead work together in a certain way to push the club than continue throwing stones and attacking the club brand and disagreeing? No. Because at the end of the day, you don't see that being sustainable. And maybe it could come off that whenever elections come, they pop up and do the same thing.
Every member
Yes.
is important.
To a club.
Yeah. To every club, society, and everything. Yeah. But let's not overrate it. If you're a club at Villa, Vipers, KCCA, and who, maybe those are the 3 stalwarts, you're always going to have dissenting voices, dissenting views.
Yes.
The only solution to that is to try and be above all of that dissent. I mentioned about the different branches for Villa across the country, brings in fan base. So for every 100 million that you're gaining from Haji Mandela's bid, you can get it from your Masindi branch, from the members joining in. 20 members bring 1 million. That's 1. 2, the brand development. Villa's socials, Villa's website, Villa's communication. In this Kasinje Villa debacle, I blame Kasinje. You're the club PRO.
Yes.
You are stepping out without clear instructions of the areas you're going to address.
Which are crucial.
Yes. So unless he says there was a script they gave him to go and speak about, and then he went, and then the club changed its mind.
Yes.
But in all honesty, Peter, you do not go out and speak for Express on matters concerning the club president at that time without seeking his position on it.
Yeah.
That is how it is.
Whether you like the position
where you're not sure, I will not comment. No one will castigate you for anything.
Yeah.
So he's not the betrayed one. It's the club that's betrayed. Imagine how the 250 people who voted, or Haji, Omar Mandela, and Kemba, and the rest, Gerard Sendawala, felt when he said 20 million, when the actual position is
100
million. So it's not him who is betrayed.
It's a club.
When you're a PRO, the club's interests are above yours and not the other way around. When Bright Stars was doing well, we didn't allow interviews from anyone, players, coaches, administrators, and even the PRO, without seeking permission.
Yes.
What are you going to talk about on UBC? And they say, this. That's how it is.
So you're saying the dissenting voices will still stay?
There will always be dissent. There will always be dissent. Even Jesus had dissent, God's son. So that is always going to be there. Yeah. But you have to do good things so people look in and say, look, like it has happened now. One of the reasons that people are giving for Haji staying ahead of Ben Misaga is that Haji has done well.
Yeah. There's a track record.
There's a track record. So let's just grow that work.
And then improve on it.
Improve on it.
As a conclude, we talk about the clubs every day here. So Villa seem like they're on a very good trajectory.
Yeah.
Express, for them, they definitely seem like they are headed elsewhere. With what is happening in the boardroom and, of course, on the team. They literally lost most of their key players to NEC not too long ago. And
when
over
you're that
time,
small, you have to sell.
And over time, that has always recurred here and there. Your take on Express's situation?
And then maybe before even leave the Villa situation,
Yeah.
Villa has to get a hybrid model.
Yeah.
Community and private ownership. It's
Something
working for
younger is
Yanga,
being,
it's
yeah.
working for Simba,
Yeah.
it's working in Germany for all the clubs in Germany. Villa needs to get that. 49 to the private investors, 51 to the VM team members. What that does is it creates incentive. The community club cannot grow beyond certain boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's why Villa was struggling all these years until the Hajis or whoever has come in over the years, the Misagas, the Hajis, come in and run it like a private entity.
Yeah.
You get not as a community club. If they
Yeah.
sat back and said, guys, contribute money, bring your 50K, bring your 1 million, we'll grow the club, Villa wouldn't be where they are. So they need to do that 49-51, allow the Hajis have some say, or allow the Mayuas or the
the
Mbides
Misagas.
or the Misagas who come in have some say and direction in the club. These are a stout businessmen. You can't tell me they're building empires out there and they can't build a football empire. They can. So we need to move towards that. Same thing with Express. Now, the Express ownership, the problem is ownership.
Yeah.
I
There's no
have
clear
seen
ownership.
Express do so bad over the years, and they still have fans. And they still have the goodwill to play in Nachivuo,
Yeah.
one of the best club stadia in the country. They still have that goodwill is there. Players go there willingly.
The badge is loved.
Yeah, the badge is loved. The reputation over the years still counts for something. The problem is at the ownership level. The moment they sort that out, and I'd advise the same, hybrid. Get the Express funds who are good enough. They have very reputable businessmen in this town, in their fan base. So
Yes.
get those funds to take up the ownership, community and private
And the money
investors.
comes in and
Yeah,
we
that
move on
comes
from
in,
that.
but
Yeah.
also that money or those people come with a certain level of accountability.
Yeah.
You collect 50K from me, who earns 600K all year. I need a certain level of accountability, higher even than the one who's putting in the 100 million.
The 100 million.
So yeah, I think that will help Express.
Okay, so if you're watching this interview on Pitchside, I can tell you for sure that we still have a lot that is going to unravel with the Sports Club Villa presidential elections. I'm pretty sure that maybe by the end of the month, maybe the clouds will be a bit clear. But just know there will be court cases back and forth. But overall, we know for sure that on 22nd March, the elections are going to be held. Only the president is voted and he names his executive. That is what was communicated in the AGM. Any parting shots as we get done with this edition?
One, like I've always mentioned every time I'm on pitch side, coincidentally, we only sit when there is a storm somewhere. The storm is good for football.
Yeah.
No one comes out of the storm worse than they were.
They come out better.
They'll come out better.
If they come out that.
Yeah, if they come out, that is. Villa will come out of this better, but internally, they need to do better. And you need to know that there are always going to be dissenting voices. You have to rise above those because you're building a continental brand. You want to take us back to the Champions Leagues and all of those levels. The dissent is always going to be there. But again, for me, the governance issue has to be sorted going forward. We are where we are now, but going forward, that has to be sorted. Then number two, I would recommend that hybrid ownership structure. You'll bring in all the money and the direction that the club needs. Then lastly, Villa as a brand has to step up. They have to start those.
The time is now.
They have to build those blocks right now. Starting with the election, they should get a graphic designer in place. They should get, I think they already have a photographer, a social media person on all fronts. On all fronts. Sometime back, like maybe 5 years ago, Simba did a survey to find out how people were following the club, on which platforms do you follow the club. Only Tanzanians followed Simba on their WhatsApps and the Facebooks. There are like another 5 or 6 forums where you can follow. I don't know if Villa has those, but that has to grow. Lastly, as an interested party, they have to merchandise better.
Yeah.
They have to merchandise better.
Whatever,
If you're
all
growing
that
a fan
merchandise.
base, if you're looking for 10,000 fans, you have to merchandise better. You have to have a very good kit. You've seen that with Younger. You have to have a new kit every season. You've seen that with almost every other team that you know. KCC does that very well. So they have to start. Those are some of the building blocks that are going to help them build a bigger brand. There's no reason why each homestead in Kampala, and this is a bit shouldn't have a Villa kit.
Yeah, 17-time league champions, surely.
Yeah.
Has to be able to have as many. Anyways, thank you very much, Harold, for joining me. As always, always a pleasure, sir, sparing some time here at Dulcie. Advocates come through for all your legal. We don't lose cases at Dulcie. Yeah.
We'll not pay for that.
Even election cases, please note.
Villa election cases.
We always win. So yeah, guys, we're waiting for you. Come through and let's get moving. Subscribe and keep it pitchside as always. So cheers.